What's going on, guys? Welcome to Mass Matters, the newest podcast in the Massachusetts area. We're really excited to bring this to you guys. This is the first ever episode. I am Stephen Richard. I'm joined with Mike Sylvia, who is the publisher of both New Bedford Guide and Fall River Reporter. We have a lot of things we're going to talk about today. So, of course, we're recording this the day after the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the Patriots lost in that. But the big story coming out of there isn't even the Patriots. Even in the state of Massachusetts, it is, of course, the Bad Bunny halftime show. Maura Healey, 62% approval rating. That's a new poll that we just came out with. On top of that, we're checking the prediction markets, and Maura Healey, as of right now on the Kalshi prediction market, has a 97% chance of being reelected in 8 months on November 3rd. That's really interesting because the Republicans have three guys they're running right now. They don't really have their clear number one. That's going to go toe-to-toe against Maura Healey, so we're going to dive into that. Marijuana becoming illegal in the state of Massachusetts could be a reality. That's going to be a ballot question coming up as well in 8 months on the November 3rd election. What could the impact be if marijuana gets reversed and you can no longer go to a dispensary and buy recreational marijuana? We're going to dive into that. Also, what's the fastest way to get rich in Massachusetts? Mike has your answers there. It might not be what you think. Teaser alert, it involves running for political office or opening a nonprofit. And then also a new poll coming out of CNN, 83% of Americans support voter ID. Again, according to a recent CNN poll. That's really interesting. We're going to dive into that. But before we get into our topics, we just kind of want to talk a little bit about Mass Matters. What is this? You might see this on social media in the near future, and kind of what our vision is for Mass Matters as a social media news platform and a podcast. So, Mike, it's great to be co-hosting with you on this. What's your kind of vision for what we're doing here with Mass Matters?
I think a lot of this came about when me and you would be sitting around having coffee. We start talking and we're like, that'd be a great podcast, right? Yeah. We're always like talking topics out there. You know, we talked about the vision being like the unenrolled, the moderate Republican Democrat, the just truth, right? There's subjectiveness and there's objective truth. And my view is always objective truth matters more than subjective truth. And I say subjective truth, it's really emotional arguments out there and you see it everywhere. We were just talking, you know, whether it's a Trump supporter or a Biden or left or right, there's that emotional argument, like we were saying, like the Bad Bunny burning the flag, right? Someone wants to create that, and we were talking about AI, right? So objective truth, state level information. We with New Bedford Guide and Fall Reporter, we've been very hyper on the Bristol County area. We want to do more state level stuff. Why? Because it's a state level election this year. We just finished up all the municipal elections. Fall River, New Bedford didn't have really much, no mayor race there. But with Maura Healey, like you said, those numbers are they're surprising to some. I'm not really surprised by that.
I'm not too surprised either. But yeah, when we posted that yesterday, we had a lot of people like, that's a fake poll. That's not true, especially with the Kalshi prediction odds. I'm like, guys, that's not like an exit poll. That's not an opinion piece. That's just
people putting their money where their mouth is.
It's the betting market, man. There's people putting their money behind that.
Because Mass GOP does not understand this state, right? And I think a lot of people that are supporting the Mass GOP or a Trump supporter where Fall River got 51% support for Trump. I don't think Republicans understand this state. They don't understand how elections are won, and that's why they don't believe it.
Yeah, and what we've seen as like an independent news source in the state of Massachusetts is there's kind of two sides to this, right? There's the establishment media, which tends to be more left-leaning, and then there's like those fringe radio stations, which are just like hardcore, Trump is God, we're hyper-Republican. You don't see too much sort of, you know, everyone has a bias, but we try to be unbiased, get both sides, bring guests on from both sides, and just and also what we were talking about before the podcast, just talking about things that might be difficult conversations that some people, if they're part of a big corporation, can't really explore, where we're kind of unchained in that aspect. So yeah, that's kind of our goal, my goal for the Mass Matters. And we're in a unique position where we already have an established kind of media base in Massachusetts where we can do this without anyone telling us who we can't talk to or what we can't talk about.
It's funny. I just got a headline alert. Bad Bunny deletes all his Instagram posts following Super Bowl halftime show.
That's funny because last night I looked him up on Instagram. I was like, I wonder if he's posting anything. He has no profile picture, no posts. I didn't know if he always had that. I was like, he had like 50 million followers.
And that's the problem. It's like, can we actually disagree and not like get to the point of hate? We talk about like Charlie Kirk getting shot in the throat. We talk about Trump getting shot. You had Democrats. And it's interesting too. The Democrat in Minnesota was killed right at her door, and it was like she was like talking about the corruption. We now go back to that for all the corruption we see, but she was a Democrat killed by someone who showed up with a mask. The
terrifying mask, by the way. You saw the video of that?
Yeah. So people are killing each other, and we've talked about a lot on a lot of the posts that I do is the social media algorithms are really ramping up people to like the same confirmation bias. I hate Trump. Give me all the reasons to hate Trump some more every day, 7 hours a day.
And it's so easy to fall into that. Like we make a living on social media, news, politics, and it's so easy. Like if we wanted to get 100 million views on one of our pages, we know how to do that. Just get people fired up. So you have to kind of like balance, I guess it's a good question for you as someone who's established large local media outlets. How do you balance, just wanting to make money and get a lot of views and get a lot of followers with trying to do the right thing and do it in an honorable, respectable way? Because there's nobody telling you what you can and can't post.
It's an impossible balance, but the great part is you get one guy sending you from, who hates, the left, they message you, and then you get someone who hates the right, they message you, they call you a libtard or they call you a magtard, all these kind of stupid names. You realize, okay, I am covering the middle because I'm getting hate from both sides, right? And if you're a left-leaning person, people in the center are right-wing to you. If you're a right-wing kind of guy, people in the center are left-wing to you. And I think if you can stay in that zone, you're really doing objective truth, right? Because you're not sitting there just reporting propaganda. And that's mostly what we're seeing out there is propaganda. And it's how you can see, you probably remember that video, it got really viral when they were talking about, can you even say it nowadays, COVID, where the media was showing a local news report and then they showed the other one. They all kind of amplifying the same message.
It's like an exact script they were all reading off of.
If you notice Republicans on X or Democrats on X, they all kind of do the same messaging. It's if Trump says something, they almost word for word say the messaging. And if when it was Biden, it was Republican, same messaging. And I used to work at information warfare flight in the Air Force. It's you send a message, you get it all out there, and if they can all say it in unison, it hits harder, right? And then the media starts covering it. Propaganda is designed for emotion and to cause an action, right? So you're trying to get something out of this. And right now, Democrats know they're going to see blood in November, and I hate to say blood, right? But they see they can turn over. And history shows us that presidents lose the House.
And I think, again, going back to the betting, the prediction market, I think it's like a 78%. I haven't checked in the past day or two, though. It could have actually been more. But last time I checked, it was a 78% chance that the Republicans lose the House during the midterms.
Yeah, and they're ramping it up in Minneapolis because I saw some stats. ICE are 10 times more active in Texas, which makes sense because you're on the border, than they are in Minnesota. But people being shot and killed in Minnesota because of you probably saw the videos. You have these like housewives chasing ICE with like whistles, and you have all these kind of things going on in there, and they're really blocking and they're frustrating the ICE people, and you're causing but I feel like politically people want that, right? If you're a Democrat Party, you want that.
Oh my God, yeah.
You want those, sad to say, people dying or being a child being dragged, a kid, a mom with you saw the one where the mom was pulled out of her car.
Yep.
And of course you only show the video when she's screaming and crying and being arrested. You don't see the stuff leading up to it. It's propaganda. So you're seeing all of this stuff, and Republicans do it very well too. They both sides do it. So I always try to get, it's real hard to stay in the middle, but and you answer your question real quick is New Bedford Guide for Reporter. We put lost animals, we bring them home. We show the New Bedford high school wrestling team doing good. We try to show all that stuff, and then we inject things in there that we think that are important to people in New Bedford Fall River on a national or a statewide level.
What I find frustrating is we'll even post ICE arrested a guy in Bridgewater or Fall River or Brockton or Plymouth, wherever it is. We'll just post the press release.
Yeah.
And we're somehow, by us sharing that, people would be upset, like, oh, we're pro-ICE or something like that. Where it's like, we're literally, if you're anti-ICE, wouldn't you want to know if that's happening anyway? Like, that's just basic information without a spin on it.
The problem is if people just understand this, they'd be much happier. Two things can be right at the same time. ICE is grabbing people that have not committed major crimes. They're just day-to-day, your neighbor, been here 10 years.
Yeah, or any crimes besides being illegal, right?
Yes, they should, that could be happening, but they're also arresting sexual offenders, murderers, killers, and all that. So both are right. So can we find some kind of middle ground and make this more happy, a better place in the country, but also understanding that we are a nation of immigrants, but do we also a nation of laws? Can those two can be true too, right?
Well, and of course we want to tie this all to Massachusetts, but before we do that, Do you think that this whole ICE situation is a net positive or negative for the Republicans or the current administration? Personally, I think it's a negative. I think the farther away they can get from that leading up to the midterms, the better for them. But it seems like they're not slowing down. They're actually ramping it up.
It's negative short term, positive long term. And I say that they just came out with numbers. Rents are at a 4-year low, right? So
you think there's a correlation between
rents and
deportations?
if you deport, let's say it's 1.5 million, 2 million people, that's 2.5 million, 2 million people that are not in the rental market, right? It's just a basic supply and demand. So I think you're probably seeing rents decrease where the ICE is most active, probably Texas, those kind of things, where Massachusetts and New York, where it's more sanctuary, you're not seeing it. That's where they're going, right? If you're cooperating with ICE, like Arkansas, Alabama, your southern states, they're probably cooperating more. People are going to leave there and flee to the states where you're more welcome, sanctuary states. And I've always said it, it's like here in like New Bedford, it's a big thing. We had the Bianco raids. Do you remember that? Or are you too young for that?
When was that about?
That was like...
Was that the
mills? Probably like 20 years ago.
They raided the mills?
They raided the fish houses here in New Bedford. Right?
The fish houses, yeah.
And of course, Santa Time had a woman crying and screaming, and that gets at the heartstrings. And it was like, we're working, we're making money off the backs of immigrant labor, very cheap, and then when it's time to political win, you go and arrest those kind of people. So they're like pawns in the middle of all this, right?
Do you remember who the president was during that, or no? Was that
Bush? Was before Trump?
Was that
way before Trump?
Yeah,
that was
20 years ago.
I want to say it was during the Biden, or maybe I think it
couldn't have been Biden. It would have been Obama, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Obama, you're right. But Biden was vice president at the time.
Yeah.
It was during. I want to say it was because Obama was president until 2016, right?
Yep.
So I want to say it was before that time. We'll have to do a fact check on that because we want to do fact check, and we want to eventually. We always want to talk about like segments, like fact check and rumor mill. Like
it was either Obama or Bush. It was one of those. Probably Obama though. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing when you talk about ICE stuff, right? Is you can go literally find Bill Clinton, Obama, Hillary Clinton. Like if you skip the line, you're going back. It doesn't matter if you're a child or not. You can't skip the line. And when Trump went down that escalator in 2016, Democrat Party flipped to being so pro open border immigration. It was kind of weird, but I don't want to go too off topic.
Yeah, but then that was the number one thing that Trump campaigned on, and that's what got him reelected in 20.
That's what got him elected. He just said wall, and everyone was like, yes, and he said wall, and he just kept saying wall, and it just got the country going crazy. I think Obama got the country going crazy from a left point of view, and Trump from a right. But people forget Trump was a Democrat all his life until he decided to run president. You can go find photos of him he actually funded Jesse Jackson's campaign, first black person to run for president. He has a photo with Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali for getting this Ellis Island Award for immigration. He donated to all the Democrats, just like Republicans. The smart politicians donate for both. Yeah. Right.
You see that even with like Facebook and stuff. They'll donate. Yeah. They donated to Trump the day at his inauguration.
So you have a Democrat who literally just took on the mantle of anti-illegal immigration, and suddenly Democrats are like, wait a minute, this guy's a Russian. Right? It's like, it's kind of funny how he went that way.
Well, on that same topic, obviously the number one story right now is the Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime show. Super controversial going into it, but my takeaway on it is I don't think it was controversial at all. Like I think I was anticipating, especially with the Green Day before the Super Bowl and then the Bad Bunny halftime, everyone was making it out to be like it was going to be some super political thing. And there were obviously tones. Like they had like the it wasn't really divisive though. It was like, what is it? Love is more than hate. The only thing stronger than hate is love, or something like that. We are America united. Some kind of, I don't know, like I feel like a tone that would bring people together. But my overall take on the halftime show is this. Do I listen to Bad Bunny? No. Do I dislike Bad Bunny? No. I'm kind of indifferent. Have I ever really been like excited about a halftime show? Honestly, like 4 years ago when it was like the Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, I thought that was pretty cool because that was like my kind of what I grew up listening to as a kid. And I think it's all, at least with me, music and seeing a concert or anything like that, it's all relative to like the vibe of the situation. Like I remember watching that Super Bowl halftime show with the Dr. Dre and the Snoop Dogg. I was on vacation. I was on like a rooftop pool in Arizona. The sun was out, had a couple drinks in me, and I was vibing to it. I thought it was a great show. I thought it was awesome. Yesterday I had to watch, a half of my team getting stomped into the ground in the Super Bowl. So by halftime, it was 9-0. But anyone who watches football really kind of understood that the Patriots seemed to be outclassed already from top to bottom. We looked like we couldn't figure it out. So going into the Bad Bunny halftime show, I was pissed off. I was in a bad mood already. So it's like waiting at the DMV and then having a stand-up comedian come in two hours into your wait and tries to crack jokes. You're just like, dude, I'm not in the mood for this. That was my personal experience. I didn't think it was a bad performance. If I was 4 years ago on the rooftop pool listening to the Bad Bunny, I would have had a great time. I would have thought it was awesome. It's all relative. I was just in, 12-degree New England weather. It was dark out. My Patriots were getting stomped out. So I was just kind of sitting on the couch waiting for it to get over so I can watch the second half. That was my take. I saw a lot of people saying they switched over to the Kid Rock Turning Point USA concert.
Which got like 10 million views if you added up.
Got like 10 million views. Personally, I didn't watch it. I saw clips on Twitter of it. I thought it was kind of a cringe fest. I'm not, to be honest with you, 100%. I don't listen to Kid Rock or Bad Bunny. But if I was out with my friends, we're out at the pool, at the beach, golfing, and the two options were let's go listen to Kid Rock or let's listen to Bad Bunny. I'm going to choose Bad Bunny personally. That's my personal opinion. But my synopsis was, it was an interesting watch. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was divisive like everyone thought it was going to be. I think the people were being kind of petty, saying that they were going to refuse to watch it just because he didn't speak Spanish. He didn't speak English. And I just my overall take of the Super Bowl was it wasn't nearly as political, in my opinion, as I thought it was going to be. So I thought it was, it was just another halftime show. I'm never really too excited about Super Bowl halftime shows. It's not really, I don't switch to Disney Channel and critique the shows because it's not meant for me. Like, I'm not Puerto Rican. I'm not Hispanic. Everyone that knows me knows I love Hispanic food. That's literally my number one. So it is what it is. But that's my take. I was just indifferent. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It's just not for me. But if I was like hanging out by the pool or something, I would have probably vibed.
Let's go the facts here. It's going to be the most watched halftime show ever in the history of
for
America.
a long time. At
least.
It
will be. Yeah. That's the first.
There's like 150 million people watched.
Roger Goodell in the NFL want ratings,
and they're trying to expand outside of America too.
And first of all, do you think the Janet Jackson nipple thing was by mistake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So these halftime shows, they're trying to make them more because. First of all, if you ask anyone before, like a lot of the stuff, most people didn't even watch the halftime stuff. That was a chance to go get you had a pizza party, you had all that stuff. Break. You're talking, and then, you had Aerosmith, all these kind of bands out there. It was some people who really wanted to watch it, but they never really sounded the greatest and anything like that. So it's all about ratings. NFL is all about it. Like you just said, you have a game in Mexico City once a year now, right?
They're expanding to like 12 games
in London. They want to expand outside the United States. You have Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
I see commercials in Spanish all the time. Do I go in a rage? Like, I don't understand what this guy's saying.
Yeah.
Breaking news, America, if you want to get ahead in America, be bilingual, right? Now, maybe you can say, hey, I'm going to turn this because I don't understand what he's singing, but I never even heard of Bad Bunny until like 6 months ago. And he pushed back in a funny way. He was like, hey, guys, you got 6 months to learn Spanish, right? I thought it was kind of funny, right? Because he gets people out there. I personally never heard the guy before this. I'm sure he's way more popular than anyone out there.
Oh, he's like one of the most popular guys, famous people on earth right now.
I thought the show, I didn't watch the whole thing because I went and did other things, and I did switch over to Turning Point just to see what they were doing over there, and it was mostly country music.
Yeah.
But I went back, and it was very creative the way the halftime show was going. It's the most creative I've seen.
The production was excellent, yeah.
So I don't have a negative review, and I think it's all about money. Everything is always about money. If you think it's not, then you're not living in the real world. It's about money. It's going to be the highest rated show in the history of shows. Bad Bunny is, if you're hating on that guy, he's going to be. You probably seen The Simpsons, and it shows the guy, and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's like says something controversial. He's like, how much did you get paid for the movie? He's like, I got an airplane and I got $20 million. Like, how do you sleep at night? He's like, on a bed of money with 2 naked chicks. And it's like, that's Bad Bunny. Yeah. He's sleeping with, I thought it was creative. I thought it was fine. I had no deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, again, dude, if next year, if they have Taylor Swift as the halftime show, I don't listen to Taylor Swift. Sometimes I do because my wife loves her. I'm not going to I don't know. I just get so annoyed when I see all every year, there's always those people that just hate on the halftime show just because it's not their favorite band or whatever it is. They just want to hate on the youngest generation's music or whatever it is.
But I also thought it was very smart on Turner Point USA's to do something to get 10 million views on YouTube. You know how much money you make on YouTube and stuff? 10 million views. They probably got all kinds of, new followers and all that. They both won.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a loser in this.
No, I don't think. Actually, if there was a loser in this, I would say it's the Republican Party, right? I mean,
the whining. So Trump comes out and says, "Worst show ever," and he just and he probably never even watched it. Did he even go?
No, he wasn't there.
Like he didn't even go, right? And then Turner Point whined that he didn't go to their event. It's like, guys, you got a layup here, and you're just like doing
I think we were just talking before the show. Like it's all about owning the culture in politics, right? So I was just saying before we started recording that, I felt like leading up to the previous presidential election that the conservative movement, the Trump movement, had that culture war won. After he got shot, people were like openly starting to support him, like celebrities, podcasters, things like that. Right now, with the whole ICE thing going on and the there just seems to be the culture is shifting towards the left.
I agree and disagree, and I'll give you where I agree with you on most of that. I disagree is since the ICE stuff last year and this year, Hispanic support for Trump is up 14%.
What poll is that? Like, what is that? Is that like a?
It's a recent poll. I think I don't want to say it was CNN, but it was because CNN I've been following because it's easy to bring up CNN because then the left won't crush you so much because it's like, hey, it's CNN or it's MSNBC. But I believe it was a nonpartisan poll, and it was based on the same polls of his election polling. So it's like Gov USA or one of those kind of things. He's underwater for white and black. Even though his support for black Americans has gone up. He's the only one that has a higher 50% approval rating is Hispanics. And there was so that part, I think he won. And then you go do this at the halftime, you probably lost like 5% of that. Yeah. Like half of that. Because the Hispanics are like, yes, we believe we're here legally and we're glad you're getting rid of the neighbors that are drug dealers and that kind of stuff, but you're probably grabbing too many. And then you go on and goes, worst halftime show ever. Yeah. And they're all like, dude, I was just on board with you, right? The mass GOP cannot get out of their way most of the time. It's like easy elections to win. Like we're going to talk about voter IDs, a very winning thing, and they'll somehow fumble that. Yeah,
let's just roll right into that. So, well, not that one, but I want to talk about. Yeah. So recently, you were the first page that I saw really putting this out there. But Maura Healey, a recent poll has her at a 62% approval rating. We posted that, we published it. There's a lot of people complaining in the comments. Where are you getting your numbers from? And again, it's a lot of people that are stuck in their own little bubbles on social media, their own little algorithms. They don't look at the bigger picture for what it is. What's your synopsis on Maura Healey having a 62% approval rating in the state accurate. Of Massachusetts?
So it was 54%, then it was 59%, and now it's 62%. And it's because people who are angry, like if I post anything about Markey, Warren, Healey on social media, 90% of the comments are negative. And that's because the people who support her don't want to even get in that fight, I think, on social media. Yeah. And you have to understand, this is what the Mass GOP, if you're out there, listening, you don't understand. The state is about 9 million people. 4.5 million people live in greater Boston, right? So it doesn't matter if you're popular in Fall River, down the Cape. Half of the population's in greater Boston. Michelle Wu just trounced a Kraft, right? So... And Kraft is the most popular name leading until yesterday, probably, right? Yeah. But with big, deep pockets and big money. And Michelle Wu says the craziest stuff. She has all white or no white Christmas parties, all these like crazy things, and she won in a landslide. It's because the Mass GOP.
And she wins the white vote too.
Yes, because they don't understand. They don't understand the voting base of the state.
As in the Mass GOP.
The Mass GOP and all the extreme MAGA pro like Republican guys that are just not getting out of their bubble. I think we talked about that. I think it was like Susan Sarandon or Bette Midler or one of those when Bush won. She's like, how did Bush win? I don't know anyone who voted for him. Yep. It's the same on the other side.
It's even worse now with social media.
How does Healey get 62%? I don't know anyone that likes her because you're in a bubble, man. You're surrounded by people that just agree with you. Get out of that bubble. And we hope this show is going to bring that to the point. I think we've been more hard on so far on people like Trump and other stuff than anything else. And so, yeah, I think it's 100% accurate. It's nonpartisan. I get it. I usually get my stuff from the State House News Service, which is very in the middle, probably a little bit to the left, but they're covering the Boston politics. And it's nonpartisan, man. It's like it's the truth thing. And she's gonna, like you said, okay, money where your mouth is. These betting sites have went from 95 to like 97 now.
Yeah. Like, so let's lay that picture out. Let's paint a picture right now for the state of Massachusetts. Governor Maura Healey has a 62% approval rating 8 months away from the election. Also 8 months away from the election, the Kalshi prediction markets, where this isn't opinion, this is just where people are putting their money, their real money at, It's a 97% chance. 97% is unheard of in like sports betting, right? It's 97% is
That's Mike Tyson versus me.
Yeah, yeah, that's Mike Tyson versus Mike Sylvia. All right, 97% chance is literally unheard of. All right, so they're giving one of the three candidates, which is Brian Shortsleeve, Mike Minogue, and Mike Keneally. Right, those are the three MASH GOP candidates. That one of those is going to be running against Maura Healey. They have a 3% chance of winning combined. So is there even a chance? Is there even a point for them to run? I think, yes, there's a point. We should always have contested elections.
They can easily win.
So you think they can easily win?
They can easily win.
3% chance. What's the roadmap for someone actually dethroning Maura Healey, who I also just saw that she's one of the most popular governors in the United States right now.
Yeah, and Baker was before her. Baker was the most popular governor, and he was Republican. So it tells me they can win. Brian Shortsleeve, Mike Keneally are both Baker guys, right? If Baker came back in the state and went around and promoted those guys for 6 months, and one of those two comes out, they can win. Mike Minogue, I don't think has a chance to win. He's donated $7.5 million of his own money.
Yeah, he has more money
money than Healey, almost $1 million more, like $900,000 more. We put out a post on the Breath Guide on that. If he would have, they've already done the wrong thing. That guy should have been setting up a super PAC and funding one of these two that has a chance to win. But the guy who probably has the most likely guy, Brian Shortsleeve, has less than $1 million, and Mike Keneally has over $1 million, and then Minogue has most of it.
And name recognition goes a long way. So when I posted the 97% betting odds, there were comments in the comment section saying who's running against her. People don't even know who's running against her.
And they've been running for 4 months right now.
So that's the big thing, right? Like obviously the big Massachusetts politics, hardos, like they know who's running. But if we just walked out into the streets of Fall River, Boston, Worcester, people don't know who's running against Maura Healey, but they know who Maura Healey is. So what's the roadmap to one of these guys actually dethroning the current governor? They
need that Scott Brown moment, Scott Brown in a pickup truck. When Kennedy died here in the Senate, he's the first Republican in decades to win, and we won't see another one ever here in Massachusetts, I think, as a U.S. Senate. They need that. This is a guy who understands me, right? And that was Scott Brown in a pickup truck. He looked like a blue collar guy.
Which sounds like the polar opposite of Minogue,
Minogue's a wealthy. I looked up his numbers. He's a couple $100 million. He came up with some heart device and made a fortune. And he is a good chance he'll be here because money does win elections, right? And what we're having a problem here now is, do you remember who ran against Healey when she won?
No.
Okay, so it's Deal.
Okay, so, yes, I do remember that actually, yeah.
Deal went against in the primary Doty. Doty was also a wealthy guy, but he was a very Baker guy. He could have won. And if you go back to my follower group days and New Bedford group days when I could actually post in my own groups.
You keep saying a Baker guy. What is a Baker guy, though? What does that even mean?
A Baker guy is a moderate Republican who doesn't run as a Southern Republican.
Some would say a rhino.
They call it a rhino, but try being a guy who's going to talk abortion in Massachusetts or talk all these kind of craziness that is, you're a Massachusetts guy. And that's my whole point. They don't understand. So Chris Doty he was a millionaire, but he was more of like a cookie cutter baker. Meaning, I understand I'm in Massachusetts. I gotta, the House and the Senate is run by the Democrats. I gotta at least get what I need in some of these bills, and not veto those kind of things. So Doty, the Mass GOP basically had him spend all the money in the primary, and he lost. And then Deal had no money, and he was your very more conservative kind of guy. You cannot win in this state. You got to be Baker. So there's a chance they're going to do the exact same thing. And the problem is the Mass GOP is more about consultant money and all this kind of getting all the money out and not really, because the big problem here, and we can get to this PhD level of winning the state. Last year, when Trump won in 2024, so not last year, we're already in 2026. In 2024, the Mass GOP only fielded 1 out of 5 races. So 80% of the races at the state level, your state reps and your state senators, 80% ran unopposed. And what that allows is all the money from those 80% Democrat to flow the money into the 20% and have candidates and stump for them and have Healey visit those areas. If you want to have a governor in Massachusetts win, a Republican, let's say Keneally or Shortsleeve, you need to have almost every race running, because think about like in Fall River. Imagine if you have someone very popular is running the Republican Party. So like if you understand, you've had Somerset lost, Democrat lost a race there. But let's say in Fall River you have Will Flanagan running, right? So imagine Will Flanagan running against
someone. Who's the former mayor of Fall River, if people don't know.
Very charismatic. So imagine if he's running in Fall River. he's going to bring up the governor candidate as well, because now you have people paying attention. But if everyone's unopposed in Fall River,
people don't go out to vote.
The turnout was lower, and they're all going to vote Democrat pretty much, right? So the governor to the state rep, because if the only candidates that are actually actively campaigning are Democrats, then the Democrat governor is going to get the vote. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So if every race had an opposition, people start paying attention to the Republicans a little bit more, and they start getting that name recognition of, like you said, no one knows who's running. So if the Mass GOP cannot field candidates, then the governor, and then you put like Minogue in there, 65% Healey. She's going to win 65% of the vote, which she won against.
So if you were going to put your money in the betting odds, not just like who's going to win, but what do you think paint me the picture of what you think is the most likely scenario to happen. We have 4 people right now running for governor. What do you think is going to happen? Who's going to be the final 2? Obviously, Maura Healey is going to be one of the final 2, but like, what do you see happening in the Republican Party?
I still think, Minogue, I still think is not going to win, even though he has all that money. So I just look at, there's only been 2 polls done. So it's Suffolk University / Boston Globe polling. The first poll when came out, it was no one knew who anyone was really. Mike Keneally led, Short Sleeve was second. Minogue had like 14 points. Minogue now spends the most money. He spends like, I want to say like $2 million. He goes from like 40% to like 6% or something like that in the next poll. So people are starting to figure out he's more conservative, I think, and he's just dropping off. And then Brian Shortsleeve, who has the least money, jumped to the top of the poll numbers. So it tells me right there, if they can keep, we interviewed Shortsleeve here in the studio.
Yep.
I think he's a likable guy, former Marine, he was the head of the MBTA, turned it around. It was like, I don't know if you remember the scandal. It was like a scandal there. He got pulled in there. Baker kicked the guy out, put that guy, he put Shortsleeve in. He kind of turned around. At least that's what he'll tell you. I got to look more into it, how well it was more on him or not. Likable guy, former Marine, cut in the cloth of Baker, donates to Democrats. Republicans try to use that against him. It's like, again, Trump. Okay, so if you're a MAGA guy, you're going to throw Trump onto the wall, because he helped Jesse Jackson become president. Yeah. He donates to Democrats. Guys, winning is more important than getting your message out there and losing, right? So I think you're going to see Brian Shortsleeve at Keneally go next level, and if there can be some real money behind those 2, he has a chance. But you can see already with, Healey's not stupid. She's already doing the right things, right? She ended the migrant crisis last year. She moved them all to the hotels. So for 3 years, they're all in the hotels, and veterans didn't get preference in there. Now the veterans got preference, and they're all at the hotels. She has the ADU thing coming out. She's doing the right things, and unfortunately, it's always an election year when you finally see these kind of things come out there. There's so much to run on against her.
So just kind of putting you on the spot here, right? So yep. Maura Healey, she's up for re-election in 8 months. So we've seen a lot. You've covered her a lot. If you had to take, what's the number 1 win out of the Healey administration that she can kind of campaign on, and what's her biggest stain?
So, Massachusetts tops the ticket on a lot of things as far as like education, while it's very expensive, the standard of living's much higher. She can, but in me, I think she just resonates with anti-Trump rhetoric, right? You can literally before Trump gets in office, have your rent double, your utility bills double, your cost of living for number 1 in the country for daycare, all goes up, and then Trump gets elected, and you're on the campaign trail going, Trump ran in office as going to lower prices, and he hasn't done it. It's like, what? But it's the right message, because they're seeing prices still go up, and people have short-term memories. So she's gonna run on, I think, just like an anti-Trump message, especially if Minogue wins, right? But I guess we're gonna see. Hopefully, we can moderate some of the debate for the Republican Party, but the Republican Party is going to get drained dry over the next few months in this primary battle they're going to do. The smart thing would have been, like Deaton did, is just have one. Hopefully, get rid of the competition, have one person have the money in the party coalesce around one person, and then you have a chance. Even if they did all the right stuff, Healey is still the favorite. Because guess what? You live in Massachusetts.
And what would you say the number 1 stain is? The migrant crisis?
I think the migrant crisis, the money we spent, cost of living, I could, off the top of my head, could tell you 3 or 4 people that have had their rent double, utility prices double, and are moving to a lower, smaller, probably more dangerous neighborhood to survive. people know, but it's a shift blame thing. So look at the energy stuff. So you have the nuclear power plant closed before Healey, but then you close Brayton Point. Biden was here celebrating it.
Yep.
You close the pipelines in. You go to liquid natural LNG instead of the pipelines that she closed, and prices are skyrocketing. We all open our most watched video with Short Sleeve was he pulls out his electric bill, right? That's a win for the Republican Party, just show you your cost of living. But the emotional, hatred for Trump and the Republican Party in this state is what she has to offer.
But do you think, like, going back to her wins though, right? Because you could say healthcare, just Massachusetts is a good place to live. That's not necessarily like a win from Maura Healey. You kind of inherit that. There's got to be one thing that she's probably thinking that she can campaign on, and like, I did this on this date.
If I'm down here, I'm going to come down and say, I brought you South Coast Rail finally. I'm going to say ADU units now. I've cut in the red tape to have your mom can downsize into a house and live in your backyard in a nice little, tiny home.
Yeah. I
think she can say, hey, we're turning a corner here. And she'd be right as far as like the inflation is a lot lower than it was, right? And a lot of it, a lot of people give Biden a lot of hell on that. But I remember Trump sending out those stimulus checks.
Yeah.
I remember the Republican Party passing them gleefully.
Yeah, it's kind of like a slanted kind of statistic, because I remember Biden also campaigning on or championing like how many jobs he brought back to the market, but it was really just coming out of COVID. So you could also say the same thing with inflation.
He also created all government jobs.
Yeah. But I remember like that was a big thing they were campaigning on.
Yeah.
But you kind of look at it like, we lost a lot of jobs because of COVID. Now they're just coming back. We're kind of going back to zero.
They come back.
You could say the same thing with inflation, where it's like, no matter who was running, who was in charge, there was going to be rapid inflation because we shut down the economy and had to send out a lot of money.
My biggest problem with the Trump diehards, and I support a lot of things Trump does. My problem with the diehards is after he lost the election, he told everyone in Georgia to stay home during the special election, and they got 2 Georgia senators in there with Democrat, the first time in like 40 years. And it put Schumer in power, and he put all these judges in there that are now overturning everything Trump does, right? So he steps on that rake constantly, right? And then he pushed out those stimulus checks. He was the president during COVID, right? He was ramping out the stimulus checks. And then, of course, Biden comes in and inherits this high inflation. Well, you pushed in trillions of dollars. We all know the PPP loans. Mm-hmm. That was a Republican president. So he owns, I would say, at least half of what that inflation that Biden inherited. And then Biden, I think he had like 150,000 government jobs. And government jobs are $100,000 a pop. In D.C., 200, 300,000. They both owned it, but both sides are like, no, it's all Biden, it's all Trump. Come on, guys. There's a middle here where we both own it here.
Yeah, so moving right along. So I think, it looks like we could potentially have 11 ballot questions in this upcoming November election. What pops off the sheet to me is the ballot question revolving around marijuana and reversing marijuana in the state of Massachusetts in the sense of making it illegal again, closing down dispensaries. Basically, what's the word? Just public consumption is illegal. What's your take on that?
It has no chance of passing. So it passed 52%. So it barely passed. But now people are seeing that,
when we say it passed 52%, are you talking
50%
about?
of the people passed it on a ballot.
Yep.
Like 8 years ago, whatever it was. It got passed. It got enacted into law within about roughly a year. But people are seeing the tax benefits of it. Kids have no access to it. The black market softens and doesn't go away, but it gets less. It's healthier in the dispensaries, and it's regulated. So we have, I think people are seeing that. Now we're passing laws of cannabis consumption lounges, where now we're saying, hey, it's been destigmatized so much now that we're going to let you consume it in lounges like bars, like you do alcohol. And guess what? Alcohol is way more dangerous to your body than cannabis is, right?
Yeah.
So I think if it was on a ballot question today, which we're having an inverse ballot question, do you want to get rid of it? I think it's like 7% no, because people have seen the stigma has gone away. Everyone's consuming it. Grandmothers are consuming it for sleeping better and their knee pain. You're just seeing it as so acceptable now in Massachusetts. There's no way they can reverse that.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it is going to be on the ballot, right? So let's just run a scenario where, what's going to be on
that's going to hurt Republicans.
What's going to hurt Republicans?
That there's a no on to repeal marijuana.
Yeah.
Democrats are gifted at making ballot questions that energizes the base and gets them out to vote, and then they vote down ballot.
Yeah. So paint me a picture though, right? So it's going to be on the ballot in the state of Massachusetts. They're going to try to reverse marijuana for public consumption.
Bring it back to medical.
Yeah. Bring it back to only medical. So you can't go into a dispensary and go just legally purchase marijuana.
You got to get a card, right? Yeah, and everyone has cataracts when it's medical.
Exactly. All the way back to how it was beforehand. What happens at the end of the day? If it's on the ballot, anything can happen. It's like what Mike Tyson said, you throw two grown men in a ring, anything can happen. At the end of the day, this isn't a presidential election, so we're not going to have some overwhelming show of votes coming this November in 2026. So let's just paint the picture. What if by 50.01% it passes and they have to reverse marijuana in the state of Massachusetts?
You're wrong right there. They have to reverse.
What do you mean they have to reverse?
You just said they have to reverse because 50.1. We got 72% for the audit and they didn't have to reverse it. So they don't have to do anything. We now understand the man behind the curtain that these ballot questions are a effing sham, right? Because anyone they can say, sorry, unconstitutional, like they've been saying over and over and over. So who cares if who cares if 95% say, let's reverse it? We live in the illusion of a democracy in Massachusetts. That there is even, in my view, way more important ballot questions. Like now you can do a FOIA on the governor's office and the state reps, same day registration, one party primaries. They could just say, so what, you effing peasants? We don't care what you think, because they did that with the audit, right?
How does that work? So yeah, what's the status of the audit? So yeah, last election, 72% of Massachusetts residents voted to audit the legislator.
Yeah.
And today, fast forward 2026, nothing is happening. What's the status? How is that even possible that hasn't gone forward yet?
Because we understand. Okay, so from my understanding, if you go to states like Florida, Arizona, the ballots have to be crafted as the legislation almost. So when you're voting on it, there's already legislation that enacts it. So Arizona, when they in November, I want to say like 4 years ago, when they enacted legalized marijuana, it was literally all the medical could convert like that day
immediately,
or that week or whatever like that. They just had to now push out some guidelines and regulations. Massachusetts took a lot longer because our ballot questions are just a nod and a prod to say, please, pretty please, and go write some legislation on this. And then we write the legislation and the regulations, all that kind of stuff. So 72% of the people in November of 2024 said, we want, and this is an important thing, we want the state auditor, which is the executive branch, to audit the legislators. By the way, a Democrat, Diana DiZoglio. And they said, oh, that's cute, but no.
Right? It says unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional. And I looked it up, and I've gone through the lettering of this, the legal of this. So you have to just get 10 registered voters to sign off on your ballot question. And then it goes to the Attorney General, who has to check it for constitutionality. And if she approves it, then it goes, and you get it's like 5% of the registered voters or whatever like that. It was 800 and something thousand signatures you have to get to finally get it on the ballot. And then it goes another review, and then it goes on the AG said constitutional, right? So they're saying unconstitutional. So now you see Mike Minogue doing a brilliant thing. He's saying he'll fund the lawsuit. So DiZoglio was going to do a lawsuit. So we've had two people in here, State Senate Michael Rodrigues and State Rep Carol Fiola, and they both say unconstitutional, that their lawyers have said. So we all know, look, I dealt with lawyers in City Hall in Fall River, the Corporation Council. They're going to do whatever the mayor wants. So to say we're already being audited, okay, so what are you afraid of if someone else audits you? I don't understand. If you've done nothing wrong, what are you afraid of? It's like, I don't want you to check my trunk. Why? I think you have drugs in there, but I don't. Just trust me. It's like, okay, open up, there's drugs in there, right? It's like, why don't you want to just open up the trunk?
And usually when they say I want a lawyer, that means there's something going on.
Yeah, I would always lawyer up no matter what. But I just think they're using this unconstitutional thing as a complete BS and hoping you forget about it. So Donna DiZoglio, crafty as she is, she put up another ballot question, which is now we want to audit. I was joking. It's like, if you want to bribe the governor or a state rep, just email them, because right now you can't FOIA those two. You're better off emailing them than actually talking to them in like a cafe or something like that. Someone overhear you. But you cannot, I can go FOIA Mayor Mitchell's office, I can go FOIA the police department, I can FOIA the sheriff office, I can go FOIA just about anyone, hospital groups, schools, but I can't FOIA the governor's office or the state legislators right now.
So my question though is, and it has nothing to do with that, but You were talking about before how, a big critical mistake during the 2020 election was President Trump telling people to stay home in the Georgia election. Do you feel like you're kind of doing that right now with the marijuana thing? You seem very confident that it will not pass, but at the end of the day, it's going to go up to a vote.
I think you're going to see
people feel like it's not a real thing, then...
No, I think you're going to see, again, I think Democrats are going to use that because you're going to see a lot of money on these ballot questions. You probably see the TV commercials and all that.
Yeah.
Anything they see, I think the Democrats are going to primary run on the same day election, registering same day, saying, we all believe in democracy, unless you approve a ballot question we disagree with. You can, we want same day registration and we want to keep marijuana legal, and they're going to run on that. And it's going to get people out there. If you're a marijuana smoker and you have access to these dispensaries everywhere, you don't want that to go away. And we start introducing these hookah lounges, and those kind of things. You don't want that to go. You're going to energize people who might not have never voted to vote. I think you're going to see a lot of turnout because of it.
Well, is there a conservative base that's against it? Is that the base? Is it conservative people that are
I bet you it's the alcohol industry or someone who's losing money to marijuana. So in my view, it's probably very few people behind this. I don't know churches that are behind. I don't know anyone that's, we say, conservative behind this, but I do know the alcohol lobby is very strong. I know they're getting their butt handed to them financially. I know the cigarette companies probably losing money because people who go into marijuana. So my guess it's probably some lobbying company that got this done. If we really dig down, we probably should dig into this. Who's behind this ballot question?
Because I just feel like nobody's talking about it. And
who got those signatures? Who collected all those? That's what we got to find out. And I bet you it's someone who's losing money. It always comes back to money or power. Who's losing money and power because of the marijuana industry?
Well, speaking of money and power, one of the topics we have on today is, Mike's fastest way to get rich in Massachusetts. Your recommendation to the next generation is, if you want to get rich in this state, run for political office or start a nonprofit. What do you mean by that? What do you got over there?
So we had a viral post, Ayanna Pressley. I got my notes here, and let's go through this because it's really interesting. So if you don't know, she was a Boston city councilor, and she decided to run for Congress, and she won. So this is the details. So when she first ran in 2018 and she got elected in January 2019, her net worth was minus $12,500. And net worth is basically your debt, minus your cash, how much you have, all your assets and all that.
Your assets and cash minus your debt.
Yeah, minus your debt. There you go. Better than I said it. So she was negative. And then fast forward to 2025, her net worth is $8 million. This is not me. This is independent trackers, Open Secrets estimate her net worth. Okay. So her income as a city councilor was $97,000 a year, and her husband, Conan Harris, he earned $92,000. So that's about less than $200,000 in Boston. Not a lot of money if you think about it. Okay, but that led to a net negative net worth. And then she gets elected, and literally within a week, he sets up this nonprofit. So just days before she took office, Harris resigned from his public sector job to launch Conan Harris and Associates, a management consultant firm that quickly grew lucrative. By 2019, the firm reported $148,000. So he went from $92,000 to $148,000 in the firm, escalating between $100,000 and $1 million annually by 2024.
Wow.
So if you grab the timeline here, so Presley sworn in on January 3rd, 2019. On January 1st, 2019, he resigns from City Hall and he launches his consultant firm. And he registers it on January 15th. So that's less than 2 weeks later, he registers this. And then suddenly he's going up from $148,000 in the first year all the way up to $1 million annually a year. So when you have these consultant firms and you have a wife that's a congresswoman, it's like pay this money here and we'll make sure she does this. And there's no legal, we haven't found anything illegal she's done. So that needs to be said out there. There's nothing that is some kind of smoking gun. She's done something illegal. It's just how it is. You want to be rich, get into Congress.
It's just we saw the same thing in Minnesota with Ilhan Omar, and even very similar with Nancy Pelosi, where her husband is the greatest stock investor of all time, but she just so happens to be one of the most powerful people.
And what's
her
response? That's not me. It's my husband.
Yeah. So the hustle seems to be the wife or one person is in power, the other person in the relationship is running the financial side of things. And there just happens to be rapid hockey stick growth when you have that dynamic duo.
One of the famous ones with her was her husband bought calls at Microsoft. And you know what calls are, right?
Yes.
So calls, if you're not understanding, you're buying a contract It's a way to like really leverage a stock, right? You're buying you're buying the rights to buy 1,000 shares in the future, and it costs you a discounted rate, but it goes up. So he buys calls, and then a week later, there's like a government contract given to Microsoft in the like billions of dollars. So the stock pops off. So you see that young kid, he created a tracking app.
Yeah.
And it just invests.
The Nancy Pelosi tracker, stock tracker.
And he's got like one of the number one apps downloaded, and it's like outperforming everyone. She outperformed Warren Buffett by like tenfold. It's some crazy number. Some guy did the numbers. If you took Warren Buffett's like 50 years and you took her like 20 years, she like tenfolded his like returns. And we just sit around and go,
that's
okay.
just how it is.
Super Bowl's this Sunday. Let's watch football.
And disclaimer, this is bipartisan. People on the right do this as
100%.
well. We live in a left state, so we're, the people we're talking about here are left leaning. But this is just through and through in Washington and in politics in America. Money is just hand in hand with politics.
When I read DeSantis' book, he opened my eyes. So he's told me why he went for governor out of Congress, and he did Congress for like 6 years, and he found out. There's a famous movie called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's Jimmy Stewart. You go there like, I'm going to change the world. And then you go there and they corrupt you or they make you just leave there. DeSantis goes there after like 6 years. He realized the Republicans told him, you're going to vote how we want you to. If you don't, we're going to primary you. We're not going to invite you to the fundraisers and you're going to be gone. That's why when you ever see the votes in Congress, it's almost all Democrat one way, all Republican another way. They're literally whipped in line based on fundraising, and they'll primary you. And that's what Trump uses against people who don't vote for him. He's like, I'm going to primary you. And Musk does it too. I'm going to fund the primary. We got to get away from that. We need independent thinkers inside. But the problem is the other side, I get the other side too. If we don't vote for certain things and get things passed, and nothing happens because of the filibuster, right? So you got to get them all in line. But that's why DeSantis left Congress and went and run for governor in Florida. He's like, I can't do anything here. There's nothing I can do. I have to do what they tell me or I get primaried and get out of here.
Yeah, and we see similar things. I know you dug into, in the past year, a nonprofit in Fall River, Massachusetts, where it's just one of those situations where it kind of seems like, you're fighting homelessness and poverty, but the people who are actually involved in the nonprofit are getting extremely wealthy with high salaries. Yeah, what's the synopsis of that story?
So a few years ago, it got kicked off. A few years ago, a homeless man died. He was laying on some steps, and then he fell asleep. And whether alcohol or drugs involved, that's the guess. People are going to guess. If you drink too much, you fall asleep in the cold, you're going to get hypothermia and died. So he died, and it caused a rift. And then on the radio station WSAR, they had a Saturday show. Sue Netter had a show. She brought on Christopher Sylvia and Mike Dion, who kind of funds the Stepping Stone. And
Which is what Stepping Stone is?
Stepping Stone is so there's a thing called Stepping Stone. They manage the primary homeless shelter. And I looked up the numbers. They manage like 30 beds, and then they go to 50 during the winter. But Stepping Stone has the first step in, and that's the primary year-round homeless shelter. And then we did a nice video on the Tomeo Center, which is the overflow. Mm-hmm. So when they don't have, if they get to that 50 max, then there's an overflow. And also we know I think it's like considered a dry shelter. So if you're using drugs or alcohol, they won't let you stay there. Tomeo Center, run by a church, they allow anyone in there. So, and we just seen the temperatures this year, right?
Yeah.
Below zero in many ways. In New York, I think is up to 20 deaths out there. So it's pretty bad this year. So that triggered the CEO to call from Florida. Is the estimate. She was down in Florida with her husband.
The CEO of
Stepping Stone. So I dug and I looked into like how much does this lady make, right? And we found out, and I did some digging. So something that manages 30 beds year round, another 20 in the winter. I was like, how much do they make there? And she makes $250,000 salary, and this is a couple years ago, and another 24 in other conversations. So that's $265,000 to run a 30-bed annual shelter that goes to 50 in the wintertime. And I was shocked by that because I did my due diligence and look, and the average Fall River income is $31,998, and I went even deeper. The mayor of Fall River salary is $122,000, and has far more responsibilities than the nonprofit head of Fall River. The Fall River police chief earns $219,000, or $46,000 less than the CEO. Governor Healey makes $185,000. Makes even less than this. So you have a nonprofit in Fall River where it makes like 8 times the income of the average person, makes more than twice as much as the mayor, makes more than the governor of Massachusetts to manage 30 beds a year of addiction and homelessness.
Wow. And where does that money come from? And she's not the only one that was making a crazy amount of money over there too. Everyone was in the six figures, but where does that money come from? And just how is all of the money spent on salaries, or what's the percentage of money that's spent on salaries? Did you have that information by chance?
Yeah. So the nurse there, the head nurse makes $234,000. The clinical director of behavioral makes $191,000. Director of development, $162,000. A lot of money, way more than the average person is making. The money is primarily from the city and state and federal money. So it's taxpayer money. There's no, it's a nonprofit.
And like, let's not get it twisted. Like, obviously it's an important duty to take care of the homeless and all that, right? But $250,000 on a salary, like you're wealthy, like especially in Fall River. Like you're making that's a good living right there. To $250,000.
Yes,
you're literally becoming over the span of a few years. You're gonna have
$1 million every 4 years.
Yeah, you're gonna have way north of
every
$1 million net worth.
And I had the list here. So Mayor Paul Coogan made $122,000. His chief of staff, who's running day-to-day operations, $100,000. You know, so you. And that's the problem, right? Is I have a problem with people getting wealthy, helping the poor. Because in my view, you never get rid of the homeless problem if you're making a fortune on it.
Why would you?
Why
if
would
I'm
you?
making $250,000 a year, why would I want to lose that?
People think it's heartless to say, if you want to fix the homeless problem in Fall River, you stop providing resources to the homeless because they'll move on to another community. Like other communities don't provide resources, so you go to Fall River.
Or at the very least, all right, if you believe in providing resources, you know, someone making $250,000
volunteer,
isn't necessarily
do the churches.
a resource. And I don't think that people should work for free, but I just don't think that, I don't understand the justification of $250,000.
There's a church in New Bedford. They drive around a vehicle. I can't remember the name. I want to add it in the comments later. I went there, did a documentary on them. They have a truck. Half it is food, half it is clothing. They load it up 6 days a week. They park it 6 days a week somewhere in New Bedford. They give clothing and food 6 days a week. You know how much money they make?
How much?
Zero. It's volunteer. And that's where I think really needs to happen. I remember I was listening to NPR doing my military duty on the Cape, and I listened to a guy who studied all the money. He said, if you just took all the money that the government spends on poverty and just gave it to everyone below the poverty line, not a single American would live below the poverty line. But 80 to 70% of the money is administrative costs in government or nonprofits.
That's insane. And of course, though, the big rebuttal to that would be you can't just throw money at a problem, right? Like you can't just, you know, here's $100,000, you're homeless, now you're not. There's got to be some type of guidance and counseling and resources like that. But I still don't see how that justifies to $250,000.
Homeless is the worst definition you could provide to what we're dealing with in the streets, because that means if I gave them a home, the problem is solved. But we all know.
We learned this firsthand by doing the little mini doc over there. It's always childhood trauma that leads to addiction, and the addiction or severe mental illness is why they're homeless.
Mental health stems from some kind of trauma in your life, which leads to addiction. Yeah. Right? Everyone knows that. Whether someone was sexually assaulted as a child, they had a death in the family, something happened, and what does an opioid do? It blocks the receptors, pain receptors. So it makes sense, right? Alcohol. Makes you feel better, other drugs kind of like that. You're really getting rid of the pain. And then when the drugs wear off or the alcohol wears off, the pain is back. So you keep doing it.
Yeah. And then you build a physical, like you need it.
Yeah. And then you set up these drug treatment centers where the average person goes through it, does it like 15 times, and the government pays for it or the healthcare pays for it. And then we all pay for it because our healthcare goes up. It's a racket, man. It's just money. There's so much money in it. The numbers, we like to dig in the numbers. I bet it's in the trillions of dollars. If you look at the money we spent since Lyndon B. Johnson set up the Great Society and started funding all these public welfare programs, trillions and trillions of dollars, and the poverty rate is not much different.
And let's just roll right into the last topic of the podcast. So really interesting poll. This is a little bit more national, but we found it really interesting. CNN released a recent poll that showed that 83% of Americans in 2025 support voter ID, which the idea of voter ID is actually a very controversial topic, or at least we thought it was. But apparently 83% of people support it. What was your takeaway when you saw that? I know you're kind of blown away by that.
Well, it all started because Nicki Minaj, who's suddenly like the big Trump supporter, came out and she made a post, and she's got millions and millions of followers. She put on X. What sensible, forward-thinking, cutting-edge leading nation is having a debate on whether or not there should be voter ID. Like they're actually fighting not to have people present ID while voting in your leaders. Do you get it? Do you get it now? That went viral. So CNN's like, let's fact check this. And the numbers they came up with is, there's a great video. You can go find it. It's on every social media. And he goes over the first number. In 2018, it was 76% supported. That's 3 out of 4 people. You know what it takes to change the Constitution? 3 out of 4 states. 2/3 of Congress. That's enough. Back then was enough to make it federal change to the Constitution, voter ID. Now you fast forward to 2025, 83%. And our demographic has changed more minority than white, right? So it's actually, you have a bigger demographic, 83, that's, what is that? Quick math is 7 points higher. 71% of Democrats, 95% of GOP. And then the numbers were 85% white, 82% Latino, and 76% black. So even 3 out of 4, and that's usually what Democrats usually say, it's racist to have these voter ID laws. And I found a video where Barack Obama was presenting, the lady asked him for his ID. It was kind of funny, and he pulled it out and showed it. So I think it's the biggest lie and push to, we talked about objective truth and subjective. It's a subjective way to pull at strings that somehow it's racist to ask for a voter ID. It's absolutely insane to me.
And putting on your conspiracy tinfoil hat, why do you think there's so much pushback from the left to not have voter ID?
I don't think the right is correct when they're like, it's all this like, you know, I think it's still rare that there's people,
undocumented voters,
people that are not here legally voting, right? But does it happen? It does. And
it's not zero.
It's not zero. And I sit there and go, so what is the real problem? And Kamala Harris tried to explain it like horribly.
I saw that video. That was pretty bad. Yeah.
And hopefully we'll cut to that, right? Yeah. The idea, the thought that certain people run around in America without an ID to me is absolutely crazy. Right now, like in Massachusetts, how many times have you gotten the real ID? Get your real ID, get your real ID. Everyone's like getting it, right? The idea that you can actually operate in society without an identification is crazy. Even like Massachusetts, like if you're like, do you get carded at all when you buy alcohol and cigarettes?
I'm getting some white hairs. I don't get carded anymore.
But people, like the law is if you look under 50, it's supposed to like card you or something like that, right? But you're going out. If you want to go into the courthouse, you need to have your ID. If you want to go into like almost anything, you need an ID. If you're going to college, you got to have a student ID. There's like everything we do is by ID based, right? And now now we're paying everything on your phone, all that kind of stuff. Eventually, your ID can just be on your phone. You walk in. It's going to be very easy to vote with an ID. And that's one of the questions that come up. Can you same day register and vote? And the conspiracy theory from the right is like Massachusetts. You're bringing a lot of people from outside the country, even illegally. You're giving them a driver's license, and then you go to the RMV and they're auto registering to vote. You're opening up the opportunity for fraud. And I think what's the negative of having to prove you're a U.S. citizen? I don't understand the negative.
Yeah, that's where I have a tough time understanding is what exactly is the negative supposed to be. Like you have to have an ID to drive a car, to do basically anything in society here in America.
How hard is it to get a passport? It's not easy, is it?
I don't think it's hard.
It's a long time and money though.
Yeah, you have to pay for it. It might take a month to come in. You have to go to City Hall or something.
So if I want to go take a trip to the Bahamas, I'm going to go through all this effort, getting a passport, spending all this kind of money. It's a couple $100. Go up to Boston, get my photo and all that to go to the Bahamas. But then the vote, which is important, right? I thought democracy is like critically important here to just make sure there's no fraud. Like I don't understand it, And I thought of ideas to make it, I'd love to. You should be able to, after you vote, I think you should get a letter in the mail that says, did you vote this way? If not, call us. If you did, no worries. And that would be its own self-audit, right? Where people can go and say, I didn't even vote. I got this thing, I voted. And that would go put people, and then make the penalty stiff.
Yeah.
Right? There's ways to do it, but Democrats are like, I have to ask, what's your agenda of why you don't want people to, I could probably off the top of our head list 30 or 40 things why you need what you need an ID for. Why is voting not one of them? I don't understand it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It makes no sense. I was actually blown away that it was 83% because up until I saw that poll, I always thought it was like a 50-50 Democrat-Republican kind of thing.
And there's a bill that passed the House, but the Senate won't take it up because of the filibuster. So the big thing here is what Trump and a lot of people pushing is get rid of the filibuster, vote this. It's called the Save America Act, I think it was called. But tell us out there, do you disagree with 83% of the country? Because we'd love to hear it. Yeah. Why?
Yeah, I'd be really curious to hear. Like, maybe we should bring someone on that's like against voter 100%. ID and really just ask them, not argue with them. I genuinely 99% of the time when there's a topic like this, I can see the other point of view. This one, I genuinely just do not understand the point of view.
I think Democrats they always go back to that race well of like, it's racist to ask for this. Because Schumer this week, not my words, just said it's Jim Crow 2.0. It's like, how? Like, how? Are you, to me, that is racist in many ways. Yeah. You're saying a certain segment of society is incapable of having an ID. That's racist in my view.
No, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. So with that being said, man, great first episode. Great to get this one under our belt. We did do kind of one on the radio, but I think this is such a better platform to be able to do this just uninterrupted, have a nice long form conversation, bang out all these topics. So with that being said, guys, thanks for listening to the first episode of Mass Matters. Make sure you follow us on social media. Again, this is a brand new kind of entity that we're putting out there in the state of Massachusetts. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify and Apple. Check us out. We're really excited to get this going, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.